All right, guys, it's time now for the Prep Spotlight presented by the Jacobs Insurance Agency. In just a little bit, we'll have Tyler from Michigan High School Football Frenzy. But first, we'll take a look ourselves here in some of the big games that just took place. Corunna down Brandon 44-7 last Friday night. I was there for that game. Wyatt Bauer continues to ball out, man. 8 of 9 passing, 221 yards, 3 touchdowns, ran for another 121, 3 more touchdowns, had a 71-yard touchdown called back. I mean, you can't say enough about the Bauer boys, but Wyatt had a real special night Friday night.
I know you mentioned you were there on the sidelines. I was trying to, keep up with your live tweets. I don't think I could refresh fast enough with the touchdowns. I swear every time I reopened Twitter, it was Eddington touchdown, Bauer touchdown called back. And it was just like, what is going on out there? But awesome game for sure.
Yeah, you would think that he's on his way to a 1,500-yard passing season, 1,500-yard rushing season. Who knows, 30 to 40 plus touchdowns. I mean, it's been awesome to watch. And you read the box scores, you see your highlights on Twitter. But I'm excited to go see a game. Hopefully, I get to Corunna Goodrich. I'm cool. Excited to see what this team looks like in person, man. It seems like they got a lot of good mojo rolling.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, this team is made for turf. I think pretty much. I was asking your dad, John, how many schools now have the turf? And every school, I think, in the Flint Metro League that Corunna's in has turf other than Owasso. There might be another one, but schools are going to the turf. And man, when you got speed to burn like Corunna and the Bowers, man, that's a recipe for a lot of points. And they are definitely outscoring their opposition. And I got to tell you guys one thing too. I am really digging being on the sidelines. I mean, it's a whole different world from being up in the press box. I mean, I don't have to do a whole lot of prep. I show up to the game, but I'm covering it for all our followers out there. I put it on my own site at Ted Fattel, but we share some of the better clips on 3 Point Podcast. We don't want to just drown people because I am constantly. Here's how I do it. I take video every single play, and if it's not a dud play, I delete it, go to the next play. Nice. But you're right, Matt. By the time sometimes some of these plays get downloaded, it's ready for another play. I got to get right to it. So I'm having a blast. And this is kind of like it's come full circle for me. I remember back when I started out, I was strictly covering Corunna games. I would go to other games in the playoffs. I followed a lot of Tony Anise, Montrose teams when Corunna was knocked out, and be down on the sideline. And it's just a whole different world down there, man. You see the pads popping, you see the real speed. It's awesome. I'm loving it.
I'll be honest, you've kind of like you've made me, because that's I mean, Jared, you did it too for Fox 17. I did it for I think two high school football seasons. I was going on the sidelines, a part of there, with Jason Hutton and the crew over there, shooting a couple games on Friday nights. It's fun, especially if you like high school football like us. But being down there on the sidelines and shooting the touchdowns, the energy, the crowd, and like you said, hearing the pads pop, it is really cool. I can tell you're enjoying it. It's fun. And you mentioned Owasso. You brought them up. I know we were talking about next week's game, or I guess later this week, the Owasso Corunna crosstown rival. We were hoping for the 3-0 versus 3-0. I know Owasso did fall to Clio last week. So, I mean, I think it was a battle with Clio from what I saw. And I mean, they might be able to put up a little bit of fight. We don't want to say anything too bad, but it seems like Corunna is going to be the heavy favorite.
It's a bummer they lost.
The big thing I was going to say, what did I see? That Corunna or the Clio running back rushed for like 400 yards or something crazy.
I didn't see that. But
he rushed for like 400 yards and 6 touchdowns or something. So that just made me like, man, I mean, what you were laying out, Ted, with Wyatt, they might have a little bit of a field day there at Wilman Field.
Well, you talked about the Owasso game. They got beat 50-36. It was weird. They led by 4 at half, but fell apart there in the second half. And check out this stat line. Their quarterback, Austin Blaha. I don't know what happened to their original starting quarterback, but Blaha had 4 touchdown passes through 4 picks. You don't see that stat line.
It's like a Jameis Winston like stat line.
Right.
Yeah.
That's like.
Some of the other games of note, Chesaning down Mount Morris, 36-0. The Indians picked up a lot of confidence, obviously, in that win over New Lothrop. They improved now to 2-1. Solid play behind Braden Florian and Mason Struck. That was the Military Classic. It's always neat when the schools in our area, pay tribute to our military people, and Chesaning does it about as well as anybody. You know, we know Ithaca has the whole field in red, white, and blue
Right.
stuff and dedicated to our armed forces, but they do it up right at Chesaning as well. In eight-man football, Byron's still trying to figure it out. 62-0 to Morris. Wyatt Cartier and Joel Fisher had 3 touchdowns each in that one for the Orioles. New Lothrop picked up a big win over Clarkston Everest, 26-15. Hornets now 2-1. Ovid Elsie continues to roll. Trice Tokar, 16-20 passing, 221 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's only a junior. And I talked about Ithaca. They downed Saginaw Novell 58-7. They're definitely going to be a team to reckon with in Division 8 for sure.
Yeah.
Also, a couple quick cross-country notes. Owasso girls took first place in the 11-school Bath Invitational, and New Lothrop boys first place at the Genesee Invitational. That gets us up to speed here locally. Let's take a look at some of the other stuff going on in high school football with Tyler from Michigan High School Football Frenzy right after this from Jacobs Insurance Agency.
All right, let's keep this prep spotlight going. Again, as always, brought to you by our friends at Jacobs Insurance. We'll bring in now friend of the pod. You've been on a few times now. You were in on the Prep Pigskin preview. Tyler, you run the Twitter account, Michigan High School Football Frenzy. Everyone out there, give it a follow, especially if you like high school football in Michigan, at MICHFB Frenzy. And, he keeps you updated on everything going on with those Friday night lights. So, Tyler, we appreciate you joining us. And 3 weeks in, is it already crazy? A third of the regular season is already done.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it has flown by. I feel like we haven't even got our bearings underneath us, and we're already a third of the way through the regular season. The playoff push is already on. So,
Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yep. Is there anyone, thinking about the teams that you kind of been keeping your eye on? I know in the Prep Pigskin preview, you were mentioning teams like Frankenmuth, Ithaca, Petoskey. Any other ones that going into the season you were thinking they were up here and maybe they've been a little disappointing? Any other ones that are maybe surprises? Just maybe what are a few teams 3 weeks in that either good or bad, you're kind of surprised with?
Yeah. One that kind of surprised me on the negative end was Muskegon Catholic Central. They've taken a couple big losses that we're not used to seeing, and then just barely edged out Benton Harbor 18-14. So it's not very often that you see that happen to Muskegon Catholic Central. They're usually a powerhouse, starting 1-2 with a kind of iffy win, kind of compounded by the fact that the team that beat them, New Lothrop, kind of blew them out, and then New Lothrop went over and got blown out by Chesaning. So, I mean, it just kind of that weird triangle. You usually don't see that very often. But, yeah, Muskegon Catholic Central on the negative end kind of has surprised me, maybe disappointed a little bit.
The one team that I love that you always talk about, and I fell in love with them. I'd never heard of them before until the state finals last year, Gladwin. I'm hoping I get to see them at the Ford Field again this year. How have they looked to start the year?
Yeah, they've been good. I think they definitely have been challenged at times. I think this week will tell a lot. They go to Clare this week. I think this will kind of be the game you can kind of judge them on. They played Ogama Heights in week 1 and kind of struggled in the first half, maybe trying to, get everything together, trying to pull themselves together for the first week, but then pulled away in the second half, and then they've kind of had some lesser opponents the last couple weeks. So I think that playing a good, solid Clare team that's always well coached, that's fundamentally sound, I think that'll be a good test for where they're actually going to be this year.
Yeah, that Clare facility up there is a beautiful high school football field. So if you're going to go to that game, that'll be a lot of fun. You're talking about Gladwin a little bit too. I mean, rehashing it just a bit, they won the state championship on a field goal last play of the game. And, I was going to talk about our Corunna Cavaliers a little bit more. They have a really good kicker, Braden Anderjack. And, it could, when you get deep in the playoffs, a kicker can be really, really important at the high school level, especially, right?
Yeah. I mean, you don't see the inconsistency of a high school kicker is going to be a lot more than obviously the college and pro level. So if you have a good one, you really want to stick with them because that can help you, especially like in times like that. We've seen it a couple of years ago with Unity Christian and Chelsea when Chelsea kicked a long field goal to complete the long comeback as well. So, yeah, it can be a weapon, especially deep in the playoffs in these super tight battles. if you can get a guy that you can trust to just get in field goal range, then that's definitely the guy you want to ride.
Yeah.
I have just a little bit of a general question for you, but you seem like the ultimate I just love football guy. How does it feel to just be back on the sideline this year? Does it feel like it's like kind of part you're whole again? There's a part of you that
Yes.
leaves in the winter and now you're whole. How does it feel?
Yes, yeah. My schedule, I prefer it to be crazy. I prefer, running up and down the sidelines and, being up in the booth. I was blessed enough to be up in the beautiful press box that East Grand Rapids has built this past weekend. It was fantastic. The facility's super nice. I walked right up there and immediately they were super happy to see me and greeting me and stuff like that. And yeah, it was a beautiful, beautiful spot to be. But yeah, definitely I prefer being on the sidelines, running up and down, trying to get good footage, trying to cover the game the best I can. But yeah, this is definitely the best time of year. I mean, you got Thursday night football, then you got Friday night lights, then on Saturday you got college football, Sunday NFL, Monday night game. Like this is the time where I feel at peace. Yes, absolutely.
Yep. Yeah, and especially the first 2 weeks there were a lot of Thursday games. Obviously some Fridays, and then there's always some Saturdays still sprinkled in for high school football anyway. Another thing you mentioned in your a previous interview with you, and then the Prep Pigskin preview, were teams moving divisions. Again, I mentioned Ithaca. You brought up a few other ones that changed divisions that you were kind of keeping your eye on.
Yeah.
Anything there that now going forward you're excited about, or any teams that you're like, man, they're just going to make a run because they, maybe like in Ithaca, they moved divisions and
Ithaca is the big one for me right now. I was fortunate enough to be there against Standish Sterling Central. They played, got a good win, 39-26. Standish scored late to kind of make that look better than it was, but it was all Ithaca. It was all Jackson Kahn. Their quarterback was just lights out, threw for over 400 yards. He was awesome. And then this past week they beat Saginaw Newville 58-7. So, I mean, and from here on out, 9-0 is not out of the question whatsoever. Their schedule sets up really favorably to really just sharpen the iron, try not to get any injuries here, and I think they're going to be a deep threat, which is weird to think about. Ithaca possibly playing at 10 a.m.
Right.
The first game of the year, you're not used to that. Usually they were the last game. But yeah, it's going to be weird to see them in Division 8, and it looks like they have a legitimate shot at making a pretty deep run.
Is there a player? I mean, you've been all over the state. EGR. I mean, you're not kidding about their facility. It's number one in the state. It really is.
It's
with the
beautiful
lake behind the away stands, the glass press box. It's awesome. Is there a player who's really kind of surprised you and caught your attention this year?
Yeah. So week 1, actually, we got to see Northville play. Northville has really surprised me so far. Their defense looks unbelievable. They've beat some really good teams, and now their schedule is starting to kind of look almost like Ithaca's. I mean, it's not nearly as easy. Still, the KLA is tough to play in. But Drew Rankin, the defensive back there, I watched him. He's probably about 5'9", and I watched him against Brody Cozen, who's committed to Indiana. Locked him up completely. Kid's about 6'6", locked him up, and then Desmond Steffens as well as. He's a defensive back that's committed to Boston College, and he locked him up as well. So he was lights out. Drew Rankin is one guy that I could definitely see being a really good steal for like a D2 or D3 team. Yeah, he could absolutely be one of those guys.
You aren't kidding about Northville, man. I have a buddy who went to Northville. He's an alum. He's been to a couple games this year. They seem to be the real deal. They beat Clarkson week 1. Clarkson has been, competing with Southfield A&T, who just beat Cass Tech. I mean, Northville could beat anyone. Do you think that they have maybe a Ford field trip in the future?
It's very possible. Their quarterback, Isaac Pace, has stepped up really nicely. They had a quarterback by the name of Luca Pryor last year that was really, really good. Ended up actually committing to Calvin, and he's over there helping build that program. But yeah, he was lights out last year, and Isaac might be on pace to even do better than that. I mean, if their defense plays the way that they have, I mean, they'll be in every game. Their defense is keeping them in every game, And if their offense can just score enough, that yeah, absolutely. There's no reason why they can't make a pretty deep run. The only
Tyler,
problem is running into Belleville.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. Tyler, before we let you go here, where are you off to Friday night? And again, tell our listeners best spot to catch up with you.
Yeah, so this weekend I definitely am thinking I'm down to 2. I know that you guys told me I got to get to Owasso, so it's very possible I end up
All right.
going there and watching Corunna. I just want to see them and I want to see the facility. But Claire Gladwin is on my list as well. So probably be about Wednesday before I know for sure. But
If
that'll be where I'll be.
if you're looking for atmosphere and an all-time, facility and setup, Corunna versus Owasso at Wilman, that's what you're going to get. But if you want to see probably a better game, it's Claire versus Gladwin probably.
Yeah. And seeing the brothers play as well is definitely part of the reason I want to catch a Corunna game sometime this year. So
they're playing real well right now. I'll tell you that.
Well,
Again, tell our listeners.
Stats.
What would be the one, Ted, and that in a couple of weeks when they play Goodrich, right?
Goodrich would be a good one at Corunna's field. They have a nice setup too, and that'll be a great game.
Yep, that one's on our radar as well. That one definitely could be the one. But yeah, MICH FB Frenzy on, I guess, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
We got links to Prep Redzone. I write for them. I got articles coming out all the time, and then I got a link to the Instagram as well, kind of the more photos and videos of, kind of the sights and sounds that I see on Friday nights. So, but yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on, and hopefully everyone can come follow along.
All good.
Yes,
Appreciate the time.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me again.
Jacobs Insurance Agency has served Shiawassee County and the surrounding areas since 1977. Just like 3 Point Podcast, we've had 3 generations: Gary Jacobs Sr., Gary Jacobs II, Brian Jacobs, and myself, Noah Jacobs, serving our community with offices in Waterford and Owasso on M21, just west of Home Depot. Stop in or go online to jacobsinsurance.com to get a quote or get your questions answered by our team. Jacobs Insurance is a proud supporter of our local schools and the proud sponsor of the Prep Spotlight. Insure everything, local, independent, and trusted. It's our family working together to protect yours. That's the Jacobs way.